I have any objections from committee members waiving the rules for a quorum, we could get started. Hearing none. So moved. Chairman McCall. Yeah. You can sit there if you want to. HR. What? 879. Where do you want to? You want to go down there? You can go wherever you want to. You'll stand right there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you letting me go first, since tonight is the last home game that my little girl's playing basketball in, and I don't care what happens, I'm going to be there at that. So all this is a little resolution I put in last year. It's urging DOT to prioritize a certain project, and it's on the GRIP system. It's State Route 17, mainly between I-85 and I-20. It'll alleviate some of the traffic coming into Atlanta. And if we deepen the ports, it'll give us another corridor on the Georgia side of the river, and all that traffic won't be going to South Carolina to haul the extra freight out of the ports. And that's all this does. It's an urgent resolution to these guys. And we have a little coalition made up at home. It's a 17 coalition, and that's about what it amounts to. So I appreciate you letting it come out of committee.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Chairman, hearing none. Chairman Davis.
Seeing as this has nothing to do with chicken waste, Mr. Chairman, I think I'll move to pass.
We got a motion. We got a second. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See y'all.
Well, I left that part out. Thank you.
All right. Representative, where's that? Chairman Martin, are you ready? We'll take up yours. Where you want to sit? You want to sit or stand? That'll be fine with us. That'll be fine with us. Click that mic on. I don't know if it's on or off. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I bring to you today a House resolution, which I have before it got a resolution number. I think it's 1273, 1237. Sometimes I'm backwards and sometimes I'm not. 1237 today. Basically, it's an urging resolution. It just seeks that the United States would cease taking our gas tax money to Washington, only to make us come up there and ask for it back. In most cases, over the past years, Georgia only gets a small percentage of what they send to Washington. This last year, we might have gotten more because of the stimulus money, but we all are very concerned that our government up there is overspending. We'd like to take care of our transportation needs in the state of Georgia and feel like if we could keep that tax money in state, we could work with our Department of Transportation, our local communities, and take care of the needs of Georgia. So this resolution simply urges Congress to allow us to do that. It acknowledges and thanks the U.S. Department of Transportation for their work since 1967, but wishes to them to continue their mission without taking I believe it's 18.4 cents a gallon. I have, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to go into it, how that gas tax came about, but I'm sure the members of your committee know that and won't belabor the point.
Any questions or comments from committee members? Questions or comments from anybody? All right. Chair hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Move on.
Chairman, thank you, members of the committee.
Rules Committee. All right. Representative Nimmer, you want to sit there?
I'd like to see him up there.
Yeah. It's up to the committee. You got a commission. Go ahead. We'll let you right where you at. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today, I bring before you House Bill 817. It's the GDOT housekeeping legislation, just cleaning up some language and helping to streamline some of the department's efforts to improve and better maintain the state's road systems. Several changes offered up. Section 1 deals with the department having the ability to solicit bids from the current is 3 contractors. That stays the same. The only thing that we're wanting to change in that section is the ability for them to accept bids on projects up to a $250,000 limit. Right now it's at $100,000, but with the increase cost in commodities and fuel and equipment and labor, it's very rare that any highway projects are less than $100,000. So we want them to have the ability to make that decision and move forward with getting the roads up to par. Section 2 and 3, if you see there, it's currently the Director of Construction must read the bids each month at the public hearing, and in the past 6 months, only one person's attended those. And with the advancements in technology and everything that we have today to streamline that and put it online, I think that we need to just save that time and money and do away with that public hearing. Section 4 increases the cap on design build projects from 30% to 50% and removes the sunset in 2014. And moving right on down to Section 5, this removes a step in the process for the department to expend funding on local routes that will be incorporated into a programmed project. Then the next change we've got in Section 6 allows the department to close or limit access to portions of state highway systems due to extreme or inclement weather. And we copied some of the language out of the Colorado law. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, as we read back through some of the inputs that we used from the Colorado law, we realized some changes we did not make that we wanted to go back and do so. And so at the appropriate time, I want to offer an amendment, Mr. Chairman, to House Bill 87, changing some of the language that you currently see in the form. I think everybody should have a copy of the amendment that we'll propose at the appropriate time.
Why don't you go on and discuss your amendment here, and you can offer it at the appropriate time.
Okay, the amendment is going to strike the description of tire chains and replace it with such equipment. It's my belief that in the state of Georgia, not too many people have tire chains readily available in their garages, but I believe we've got an abundance of four-wheel drive trucks and mud grip tires. So I believe that we have such equipment available to move us about in extreme weather. That's gonna give that ruling there. And also, if you look on down in Section 6, it says that the department would use interchangeable message signs to alert the drivers of road closings. Now, they need that ability. It's rare. I was not here last year at the beginning of the session, but to what I understand and witnessed on the news channel, most legislators and folks dealing with the Capitol's business had a pretty difficult time getting into the Capitol, and folks around just maintaining everyday business. So we want to give the department time when roads and weather conditions present a dangerous situation for them to be able to close roads as they deem necessary. The other, make sure that we've got this right on the amendment. Excuse me. Moving on down into Sections 7 and 8. Moving on down to Sections 7 and 8. This is going to simply remove the requirement that counties seek approval from the Commissioner of GDOT in order to designate a local road as a truck route. So whenever there is a detour put in place and the departments went in and determined that this is the best route, the county can change that according to their perspective on their infrastructure and road systems. However, it has to be an adequate road and a road that is not going to endanger or limit what the detour originally was set up to do. Other than that, it's just a real simple bill. I'd ask for favorable consideration to move it out of committee.
Okay.
Thank
Chairman
you.
Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question on page 3, section 4.
Page 3, section 4.
Right.
Okay.
Several years ago, if I'm not mistaken, this is the same language that we added or adjusted several years ago on the design build. And there was from that study committee that I participated in, there's a real desire to increase design build, but yet we seem to not be able to get any design build. And I remember discussing why we were going to limit it to 15%. And I would just ask, have we suddenly increased our design build substantially enough? Is that the reason that we're changing 30% to 50 and then striking the the sunsetting at 15%?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain how much we're doing now?
Yeah, we've got, well, I don't know specifically how much, but I would like for Ms. Carter from GDOT to get up and give an example of the Deloach Highway project right here.
Well, you got that, plus with the T-Splosh, if we're fortunate enough to pass it, we're going to have some more design bills that's going to increase it.
No, and I don't doubt it. I'd like to get, because I haven't heard this discussed since we did this, and I remember several years ago, we were kind of thought we were dreaming when we said 15%, and now I see that we're doing away with that. So I'd just like an update on that.
In the last 5 years, we have saved the state of... Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, yeah, sorry. In the last 5 years, we've actually saved the state doing design build about $50 million. And one of the major success stories that we recently had, we're doing the huge port connector project down in Savannah. That design build project came back $17 million less than what we would have designed it as. So that's a huge cost savings to the public. I'll also say that 100% of the design build projects that we have done have been completed under budget and on time. And I think that's a major, major success story. So with the expansion of the T-Splosh, if that is passed, we will need more wiggle room for the design build, as well as any other big projects that may be on the future that could put us at that cap just for one project. We will need to look at this. And that being said, I'll go ahead and backtrack. We did work with the Highway Contractors Association, and we settled on the 50% number.
Can I make just one more clarification or statement or question? Because I know at the time there was no doubt that we wanted to move it, but there seemed to be somewhere in the process we weren't able to do this. And if I recall correctly, we even estimated that on a federal project that we saved 3 years on a federal project with design build. Is that still approximately correct?
You still have to go through the NEPA process and all of that. I think what you really get, they have a lot of innovative designs that maybe we as a department may not come up with. You get cost savings that way. They deliver they have their schedule. They have full control over that. So I think, the ability just that there's more concurrent activity going on the entire time because they're designing and building it.
And again, I'm not opposed to that. I'm glad to see that we're doing this. I'm just trying to, something happened obviously in the last several years, so that's great. And I commend the department for being able to do this, because I think all the evidence I saw was saved, whether it's 3 years or not, it saved time and money typically when you did that. Thank you.
Chairman Davis.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie, I'm curious to why we have any cap. Obviously, we've had a design build in my area down there on 75, that 4th lane, and it clearly takes out a step in the process and expedites the thing. I'm wondering why we have any cap at all.
Well, it's certainly a tool in the toolbox, but obviously your entire program will not consist of design build. If you've got a $1 million resurfacing project, it is going to be, it's stupid to use design build on a project like that. I also think, you want to make
I was just speaking in general. If we just took the cap out, it doesn't mean you have to use all 100%, but you would have the option to go to 55 or 45 or whatever is the current circumstance in front of you limits, rather than us coming back and having to change the law so you can go to 51%.
Well, and we discussed that and worked with the contractors. I think when you go back to the 15% number, that was one of the concerns that some of the smaller contractors had not had a lot of experience at that time. They went to 30% with the sunset, going back to 15%, but I think they're starting to see some of the benefits themselves, and so they're willing to go up to about 50% of the program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who do you want to question?
I want to speak to the distinguished gentleman from Wayne County.
All right, you're still on now.
Thank you.
On your amendment, I got in on the end of your presentation, the striking of tire chains. Now, I just wanted a little more said about that. I certainly understand down our way, we just don't, I don't ever remember needing chains. But up in extreme North Georgia, are we saying that tires will be just as safe as these tire chains are going to be? I'm a little concerned about that. Would you give me just a little bit on that?
Yes, sir, I will. Good question. We're just not limiting it to tire chains. We're saying in South Georgia, in our instance, where we know that good off-road tires, acceptable in flat woods and the flat grounds, then you don't have to have tire chains. That's why we added in such equipment. Such equipment's going to be according to your terrain and what your conditions may be. So that's just not limiting it to a specific tire chain need.
If I can follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, I understand that, and when we say such equipment, now, I don't know many people who are going to buy chains if they aren't required to. That such equipment is going to be what's on the ground. Does that, we have such a difference in weather in Georgia. I don't have any concerns about such equipment below the gnat line. A little concerned, I was up in Fannin County in the speaker's home city, and just going up to my room, I was sorry I didn't have chains and there wasn't any ice. So I'm a little concerned about certain terrain.
Representative, I'd be glad to work with you and get that language fitting to your notion if you would grant me that freedom.
Sure, I have to grant you that.
I think if you'll read it the way that it's written and read it in there, that you'll see that tire chains are still required.
Now, are they required? Where are you reading that, Mr. Chairman? Where they're required? I thought we struck and put.
Go back.
Go back how far? Because
tire chains are required to proceed. But then it comes in and it also allows that you can use, like when we were stuck up here and later Gator hadn't made it up here yet. He was still waiting to get sworn in. That four-wheel drive I had, I remember I was called and asked if I needed somebody to pick me up, and I said, no, do you need me to pick you up? In my truck, I was able to get in and out pretty good, but I think it's not precluding tire chains. It's also requiring chains, but also brings into account the other four-wheel drive, like tires and everything else that is talking about, snow tires and all there too. We'll make sure that gets clarified.
I just want to clarify, because I would have liked to have had you pick me up, but I wouldn't have liked for you to have had 4,000 or 5,000 more pounds on the back of that Ford when you picked me up.
I might have needed that to weight me down a little bit, keep me from sliding there. Okay, Representative Geisinger. Wave. Any other questions to the author? Do I hear a motion? All right, I have a motion. Second. Any further discussion? Now's when you want to offer your amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer the amendment.
All right. On the amendment, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of adopting the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, now on the bill as amended, do I hear a motion? Move. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, we'll move it on to rules. Congratulations there, Mr. Representative Nimmer. Job well done. All right, at this time, where's my bill? Where's my amendment right here? Representative, Secretary, would you come and chair the committee where I can present my bill?
What district is he from? 154. Yeah. All right. Okay. At this time, we'll recognize the gentleman from the 154th District, Chairman of the Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I bring today House Bill 835 before you. HB 835. Most of you may remember last year we had some discussions in here and had some bill concerning emergency towers, wreckers in this state. Unfortunately, when the bill was moving through, the language was stripped out. But fortunately, it was stripped out because it really didn't handle the problem that we had before us. This year, we've come back, we've worked with the department in trying to come up with a way that we could bring a piece of legislation forward that would allow the wreckers in this state, and we're talking about the big wreckers, the wreckers that are called whenever we've got a semi that's broke down on the side in the middle of the interstate, or there's been a wreck or something like that. We wanted to be, for these towers to be able to get there and get those trucks and get them out of the way. So one, we don't have any more traffic congestion than what might be there, but two, from a safety standpoint. A lot of times these trucks, whenever they went out and would hook just simply to a truck, not the trailer part, just to the tractor part on the front, they were overweight on their axle, and they had been cited for a ticket. So what we sought to do in this piece of legislation was to create a permit where they could go in and buy that would allow them to go up, and if you'll look, it's on page 2, starting on lines 29, you'll see what the permit allows, and it allows them to go up to 21,000 on a single axle weight. When we discussed it with them, a lot of times they were right around 20,000 pounds. We discussed actually going in and giving a 5% variance. The department decided, hey, why don't we just go on and what that variance would be would basically take them to 21,000 anyway. Let's go on and give them that 21,000. That way there wouldn't be any problems or misunderstandings, possibly with public safety or whatever on the side of the roads. And then take the tandems up to 40,000 pounds. In other words, that's where they could be that would allow them to get through the process. And then also there was a concern, some of them were getting cited for over length. And by taking it to 125, this will allow these big trucks like you see that hook to the semis, both the tractor and the trailer, for them not to exceed that length as well. The permit is in here. You'll see that it's at $500. We've talked with them and worked with them. They don't have a problem with that either. I do have an amendment that's in your folders. In subcommittee, we actually struck out a section that talked about within a 100-mile radius. What we didn't do was come back in and strike that language as well on line 31. And if you'll see if you'll look at the amendment, we have deleted when such tows are conducted within 100 miles of the initial emergency tow pickup location. We're striking that, and basically the reason behind that was you have some of these big truck companies, and there's not a lot of them in the state of Georgia that has these big wreckers, but these companies such as, I know down in my area of the state, the Walmart distribution center that's actually located down in Douglas, Georgia, actually has a contract with one of these big wreckers to be able to get their trucks in the situation that they've either broke down or they've either had a wreck, and to be able to get them back to Douglas or Coffee County. This will allow them to take, if they've got a truck that's broke down on the side of the road, to be able to take that truck or the tractor part to the place and swap it out with the other tractor that's tore up and be able to take it back. The 100 miles was limiting that, especially when you look at Douglas being in the southern part of the state. If you have one broke down up here in the metropolitan area, then they were over their 100 miles. So that's what we're seeking to do with the amendment. And if there's any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Any questions? We have a question.
Mr. Chairman, is the $500, how does that compare to the rates around us in our neighboring states that may allow this same?
It's close. It basically corresponds. Currently, they buy a $150 permit, but it doesn't take them to where they can actually have an exemption, ain't a right word, but the new permit is at $500, which allows them to go up to this, allows them to go to 125, 21,000, and all of this permit. If they are not going to be hauling and needing this, they don't have to purchase this. They would still only purchase the 150. But that's about where it is in other states, somewhere between, I mean, they range all the way from $200 to $500. And we've actually talked with the association and the members, and one guy actually was a little concerned about the 500. The other said, we're fine with that, as long as you give us this, because they were paying more than this in fines anyway.
You have another question? Tyrell.
Mr. Chairman, could
Sure.
you explain to me a little bit about the 6-month permit that appears on page 2, starting at line 38? How that came about? Talks about 6-month permits for tobacco and unginned cotton.
It's currently in current law today. This isn't changing it. But to give you, I can tell you a little bit behind that, because I used to be in the ginning business, and I used to haul unginned cotton and all. But it's a seasonal permit. You don't need it year round. I mean, because you're not bringing in tobacco year round. You're not bringing in unginned cotton. It's just a seasonal permit. You've got a 10-wheel, and I don't know how familiar you are with cotton, but most of the time you have a 10-wheel truck that'll pick up a cotton module that's actually sitting in a field, and it's those big, long things of cotton that's compressed. That's what they're called, modules. You can't scale them.
Right.
There's no way to scale.
So the width here is because of that product exceeds the typical width.
Correct.
And because when I see things like this, it strikes me as the road doesn't know what's on that truck.
No. But that's the way they're made. I mean, there's that, and that's why that permit's been in law. God, what? I know, probably 20 years.
Okay.
You have a question, Chairman Davis?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, on following up on the $500 permit fee, now, is this going to coincide with the Superload or the Superload Plus permits? I mean, because I know that if you have like a specialty load that's coming in,
It's a different permit.
will they have to do both? If it's
No, this is only pertaining to these emergency wreckers.
okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Any questions from the attendees? All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right. This time we'll entertain a motion. Excuse me.
Pass as amended with the amendment.
All right. We have a due pass as amended. Second. Okay. We have a motion due pass as amended and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll turn it back to you.
You can adjourn us now. You can adjourn us now.
That is the last one?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming. Thank our committee members for being here. This time we stand adjourned.